Okay, I think this looks really interesting. It's a very stylized kind of world, but it fits the character okay, and it's kind of consistent in its look. I feel like the somehow the background needs to be filled in, and maybe that's just sort of a camera choice. Like maybe if you kind of, zoomed in a little bit and didn't go so wide, then you wouldn't see these sort of vast expanses of nothingness, which sort of take away from it. You kind of want to fill that stuff in somehow, but I think that could largely be done with the camera angles. Let's take a look in here. Um, if we stay, I mean, it is a little bit hard. There is still going to be some background visible, so thinking about what could be back there is a good idea. But, there's a lot of shots you could do that really minimize the amount that we have to worry about. And maybe it's just sky or something, and then if you keep the camera low, for example, like I have it here, it looks sort of dramatic, against this backdrop. And also, there's not as much to fill in. Like you don't have, but it's like when you do shots like this that you get in a little more trouble because then you start seeing the ground plane and this whole empty expanse. So maybe thinking about keeping the camera more low and pointing up, limiting the areas the camera shows, and yeah, and maybe adding other background pieces as needed, including a sky. I think generally it's okay. I think if you can add some detail in the foreground, because I don't know, what this is meant to be or what sort of surfaces are there, but having some foreground detail that the camera will be close to, you know, um, let's say this is a shot. Maybe this looks very blank, this kind of floor. So what is that made of? Are there any other objects on it? Can you kind of populate that a little bit more? So kind of in the near area and then the foreground, you want a little more detail. But I think it generally has kind of a nice look. Like I feel like I'm in some kind of interesting video game world. But I just think maybe a little more detail in the foreground and either make camera choices that don't show the background or fill in the background somehow.